There is one power and one presence in the universe
and in my life, God the good, omnipotent.
Joy. Joy lives in my heart and colors my life. My fleeting emotions may be dependent on circumstances, but I am a spiritual being. My joy does not depend on earthly happiness. My joy does not depend on earthly goods. Regardless of outer conditions, I can find deep commitment within my soul if I take the opportunity just to look and to take a moment to reflect. My spiritual practices keep my mind and heart rooted in God's spiritual being. They cultivate joy in my heart, the way a tree bears fruit from a tiny bud. Jubilation feeds and strengthens me, providing nourishment for me to grow and to excel in all that I need, for I am blessed. I celebrate and enjoy my worldly blessings, but I do not rely on them. During times of ease and bliss, and even during times of challenge or sorrows, a deep gladness exists within me, for I know the Holy Spirit is there. I rejoice even more during the most trying times because I am filled with the joy of God, God's loving blessing. And from Philippians 4, verse 4, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice, rejoice. And so it is, and so we are. Amen.
Good morning again. Thank you, Unity on the Avenue, for asking me to be here. I said to Opal, oh, I've got the Twitters. I'm sitting here with a circle of friends. And I'm moved. I'm deeply moved. For two reasons. You're all here, and I chose that last song because we sang it all the time when I was here, and it's the last song I ever sang to my mother before she passed. Because that's the truth, right? There's only love. And as my dear friend Wanda said, we're all one, right? The first time I remember being at a Unity church saying the statement of faith, there's only one power, one presence in the universe in my life, God the good, omnipotent. Oh, it's like, that's such a powerful statement. It's so filled with joy, it's so filled with hope, it's so filled. Why doesn't it carry me all through the week? Because I forget to say it, right? So I was glad to say it again with a group of friends this morning. Thank you for having me. So we're going to talk about maximizing our capacity for joy. I have a little story I want to share with you. Dr. Wayne Dyer very famously spoke at Unity Village at a conference many years ago. Obviously, he's been gone from us on the planet for a while, but many years ago when he was at Unity Village, he told a story at the conference about his friend Portia Nelson. And Portia was taking a class where she was asked to write the story of her life in 5 chapters. And I love this story because it speaks profoundly, I believe. And this is what she wrote. Chapter 1 of my life. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find my way out. Chapter 2 of my life. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. And it still takes a really long time to get out. Chapter 3 of my life. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It's my own fault. And I get out immediately. Chapter 4 of my life. I walk down the same street. There's a hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5 of my life. I walked down a different street. Yeah, we chuckle because we recognize ourselves in this story, right? I walked down the same street. She spends 4 chapters of her life devoted to walking down the same street. In chapter 4 of her life, she makes a decision to walk around the hole. That's an improvement, right? In chapter 5, she has a bigger thought. She has a bigger decision. She decides to walk down a different street. I'd like to think I spend most of my life living between chapter 3, my eyes are open. Chapter 4, I walk around it. And chapter 5, I found a new street. Because walking down another street requires making a decision, because joy is a decision. That beautiful thing from Daily Word today, thank you, Opal, for that. Joy, rejoice. I love that scripture piece that said, joy, rejoice. And it's not just one decision. It's 1,000 little decisions every day, right? We make a decision to walk down another street. That requires us to ask questions. If we want to find the street of joy, we have to be willing to ask ourselves questions. I learned from my mentor and teacher, Mary Morrissey, that the quality of my life, of our lives, depends on the quality of the questions that I'm willing to ask myself. So we want to learn how to ask ourselves higher quality questions, right? So we might say, well, why do I always fall in that hole? That's a question. There's nothing wrong with that question. That question focuses on pain. It's looking at our pain. Why do I always fall in that hole? A higher quality question might be, well, what would help me to find a new way? Because now I'm focused on possibilities, right? I'm looking at what possibly could come my way. But each question that we ask ourselves takes us in a different direction. It either moves us further toward our decision for joy, or it moves us backwards, because it is kind of backwards to stay in pain. It isn't backwards to be in pain, it's backwards to stay in pain, right? Because I can choose to move out of it even if I still have it. The greater opportunity is always to choose for joy. So learning to ask ourselves higher quality questions is really an ongoing practice. Like, it's a joy practice. If you think of it as some way to lift yourself up, I call it a joy meter. There's 5 questions on your joy meter, right? So the first question, if you don't know how to ask a higher quality question and you've got something coming up in your life, these are the 5 questions you ask yourself. The first one is, does it give me more life? So you've got something coming up in your life, you don't know what to do, so ask yourself, well, does it give me more life to do this? Does it create expansion? Does it lift me up, or do I feel contracted? Sometimes I do that about parking spaces. Will it give me more life to park here? Yes, because I don't have to parallel park there. You see? Simple. Yes. The second question, and here's the thing, if you can't say yes to the first question, the other 4 aren't worth asking. Because why would you say, it doesn't give me more life, let me go on and figure out the next question? If it doesn't give you more life, you already know you're not moving toward joy, right? Your joy meter has gone. Let's look at this from a different perspective. But let's say you said yes, this gives me more life, it expands me, I feel like I am full of joy. Does it align with my core values is the second question. My core values, not the ones of my parents or my family or my spouse or partner or my organization or community, but my personal core values. I'll tell you that most of us don't bother to ask ourselves that question. We think, well, this is what I should do. And when you're shooting on yourself, you're out of alignment, and you probably already said no to the first question. Are you with me? Yeah. So number 3, does it help me to grow? Does it help me to grow? Am I going to grow? Is this going to help me not only expand, but learn, grow, be more of a person? That's a great question to ask. Some things don't. Some things keep us the same, and that's okay. It's not a judgment, it's a question, right? The 4th question is, does it require help from a higher power? If we know how to do it, we already have the skill, go and do it. Just do it because you have the skill. But when we don't know how to do it, when the how is something that feels so out of our ability, that's when we need the alignment with the divine. That's when God, the good omnipotent, is speaking to us, but we are not always listening. If it requires help from a higher power, we're definitely going to expand. We're definitely going to grow because we're going to learn something that we don't already know. And isn't that exciting? And the 5th question is there good in it for others? Because we don't live selfish lives. Is there good in it for others? The most common question I get on this when I'm teaching this in a class is, but my desire for myself is to have a relationship, and that feels like it's so small and it's just me and it doesn't impact anybody. I think that's selfish. I don't think that brings any good to others. Well, I'd say no. Our lovely little young lady this morning who was clapping with the songs, did that give you joy? Sure did me. When you see two people talking to each other, smiling with each other, does that give you joy? Sure does me. When we see the example of others living a life that brings a smile to our face, that's good in it for others. So be selfish. Bring those things into your life so that you can example them. So those 5 questions can turn around anything that you're dealing with in life. Because we get a lot of thoughts, right? Neuroscientists, they tell us we think, 70,000 thoughts a day. Think about that, 70,000 thoughts. And 90% of those thoughts that we think today, we're going to carry over to the next day and to the next day. Why do we have such a hard time making changes in our life? Well, first of all, we're not asking questions. And secondly, we're just moving along with taking those same thoughts. It takes noticing what's going on, it takes making decisions, and it takes being willing to make a change in trajectory in your life. And that's a very big deal, changing the trajectory. If you're going down a road that's toward that hole in the sidewalk, if you don't change your trajectory, you're going to fall in every time, even when you know it's there, even when you know it's your fault. Because remember, she got to the point where she said, I know it's there, I know it's my fault, because the first 2 times it wasn't her fault. I remember when nothing was my fault. Everything was everybody else's fault. What a horrible way to live, but I did that, right? But living in truth, applying truth, requires a lot of decision making, a lot of noticing, and maximizing our capacity for joy rides on our commitment to being able to notice and decide, right? So, some of you know, because some of you follow me on Facebook, that I lost my little puppy, Daisy, last summer. Daisy had been with me for 12 years, my little companion. And we had a really good life together. We really did. Last October, I brought a new puppy into my life, another Brussels Griffon Terrier. It's my 3rd one. And her name, I called her Phoebe Joy. And Phoebe means bright and shining, so her name means bright, shining joy. Now, I don't know if you've ever raised and trained a puppy. I got to tell you, I forgot how much work it is. I haven't had a puppy for 12 years. I forgot how much work it is, and her name is Phoebe Joy. I should be full of joy, and I'm not always full of joy, right? With all respect to Emily Cady, Phoebe Joy is proving to be my personal, private edition of Lessons in Truth. Absolutely. Unity people will get that one, okay? She doesn't give me a moment's peace when she wants my attention. I look at that and I think about that. She is teaching me something. She's teaching me just the way my mind works. My thoughts nag me the same way my untrained puppy nags me. My untrained mind nags me and goes at me and wants to move me away from joy, just like my untrained puppy. Right? So let's look at a few things that drain my joyful experiences. Perhaps you can relate. One of them, and I was the queen of this, and I actually took pride in it for a long time, worrying. I was the queen of worrying. I thought if I worried, badge of honor, that meant I loved you. If I worried about you, I loved you. So I think about that in relationship to Phoebe, and me worrying is like her single-minded pursuit of chewing my toes and my fingers. I can say stop it all I want, it isn't going to do a thing. I can say stop it to worrying, it isn't going to do a thing. So she's reminding me that's not the way to stop worrying. It also won't get her to stop chewing my fingers and toes. The other one that shows up for me quite a bit is doubt. And when I think about that one, I think about my little exuberant puppy, and she did it this morning. She's got the sock in her mouth, and she's running away, looking at me over her shoulder. And I can say drop it 1,000,000 times, and she just keeps running because she's got the sock, and I've got the doubt. Just telling it to drop out of my life, it isn't going to happen that way. And the other big one is fear. And that's like Phoebe jumping at the door when the doorbell rings. keeping her from jumping on people, on things, barking until the neighbors want to scream and say, stop it. Fear doesn't go away that way either. It's in there, jumping up and down just like that puppy, right? So she's a great lesson for me. So what I've learned is that just like giving Phoebe words are not what work. What works is my attitude, my demeanor, my body language. She responds to that. Now, I know that if you've been training dogs, you go, well, Janet, why didn't you know that? Because I didn't know that. Because I'm a verbal person and I raised children. And so I just talked to my kids and eventually they caught up and figured out the words. The dog doesn't do that. She's like, you have to handle me differently. And guess what? When I change my demeanor, when I change my body language, it not only makes a difference with my dog, it makes a difference in me. Because that's how you make joy welcome in your life, right? If you approach training your mind the way you approach training your puppy, you do it by educating yourself, right? I pay attention to things, I learn about things. So I'm watching videos, right? Caesar, the dog whisperer. I'm reading books, I've taken training classes. Isn't that how we train our mind? That's how we welcome joy, right? Caesar says, I was watching one video where he says, your dog will actually find safe places in your house. Guess what? We find safe places in our mind. We find safe places inside of us, and in those places, we don't always know that we can actually inject joy into it, right? And how do we do that? I know when I was here the last time and talked about this, we talked about pivoting, because many of you have brought that one up. Pivoting is critical, right? Something bad, doubt, fear, worry coming at me, how do I get rid of it? I pivot, right? I change my mind, and how do I do that? I do it with gratitude. And how do I do it with my dog? The leash. So I now think of gratitude as my leash. Bring me back to what I really want to be feeling, to my present moment. It makes me think of that great line from Course in Miracles, I can see peace instead of this. It's like, oh, I could be upset, I could be worried, I could not be joyful, or I could choose something different. These daily decisions, these little decisions, they make us add up to more joy. And that's how we maximize our capacity. It isn't just having joy, it's making welcome more joy. It's that decision to say, I'm going to make joy welcome in my life. Because joy is a state of being. It's not simply an emotion. There's a lot of emotions that we feel. I don't know about you, but just singing this morning with you made me feel happy. Then we sang another song and it made me feel peaceful. And then we sang another song and it made me feel loving and compassionate. So those are a lot of emotions, but joy is a being. It's a state of being. It defines how we approach life, right? So chapter 5 in her story says, if you come from joy, you make walking down another street easy. What if it could be easy? What if choosing that 5th chapter of going down another street could be easy? What if we heal through happiness and joy instead of pain and trial? Instead of looking at where we've been and look at where the possibilities of life take us. In shamanic societies, if you came to the medicine person and you were complaining of being depressed or disheartened or dispirited, the medicine person would ask you one of these 4 questions. When did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? When did you stop finding comfort in the sweet territory of silence? Each one of these simple yet powerful expressions opens our portal to joy. It expands our capacity for joy. It unites us with others in joy because we have the ability to access and experience freedom when we dance, elation when we sing, fascination when we share stories, contentment in silence. So those of you who've been with me for a while know that we don't just talk about things, right? We want to do something about it. We want to practice a little. So are you all in to practice with me a little? Put your hand on your heart. I love it. I've got a hand up there. I love it. Put your hand up, honey. That's sweet. Put your hand on your heart. I want all of you to say, I'm all in. I'm all in. Okay, well, because once you're all in, whatever I ask you to do, you do, right? I love it. It's the power of the microphone. All right, we're going to start with storytelling. I'm going to make it easy. We're going to start with storytelling. And maybe you know this story, but I'll share it with you. It's called The priceless stone. One day a boy turned to his father and asked, "Father, what is the value of my life?" Instead of answering, the father placed a rock in his hand and said, "Go take this rock to the market, and if someone asks the price, just raise 2 fingers and don't say anything." So the boy went to the market, and a woman who saw him there said, "Well, how much does that rock cost? I'd like to put it in my garden." And the boy followed his father's instructions and did this. And she said, $2? I'll buy it. So he went running back to his father and said, "There's a woman at the market who wants to buy this rock for $2. And his father said, "Okay, I want you to go to the museum. So take the rock to the museum, and if anybody asks you about it, you don't say anything, you just raise 2 fingers." So off he dutifully went to the museum. A man in a suit came up to him and said, "How much does that stone cost? I want to add it to my rare stone collection." And the boy put up his fingers, said nothing, and the man said, $200? I'll buy it. So the boy went back to his father and said, "There's a guy who wants to buy it at the museum for $200. And his father says, "Great, I want you to take it to the precious gem store. And if they ask you how much it is, say nothing, hold up 2 fingers." So the boy went to the precious gem store. And the man at the owner of the store said, "Where did you find this stone? This is one of the rarest stones in the world. I must have it. How much are you selling it for?" And the boy followed his father's instructions and did this. And the man said, $200,000? I've got it. I'll buy it. So the boy went back to his father and he said, "Man at the store wanted to buy it for $200,000. And his father said, "Son, do you understand the value of your life now? It doesn't matter where you come from, what color your skin is, who you love, or how much money you have. What matters is where you decide to place yourself, the people who surround you and who you surround yourself with, and how you choose to carry yourself. You may have lived your whole life thinking that you were a $2 stone, and you may have lived surrounded by people who saw you as a $2 stone. Yet everyone has a diamond inside of them. And we choose to surround ourselves with people who see our worth and the diamond inside of us. We choose whether to place ourselves in a marketplace or a precious gemstone. You can choose that for others. You can see their priceless value, and you have the ability to help them see the diamond inside of them. So choose the people who surround you wisely. It can make all the difference in your life. This story reminds me of something Jim Rohn was a well-known motivational speaker, and he often talked about you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. We rise to what we experience. So if we are around joyful people, we're going to experience more joy, right? The law of averages tells us we will. So here we are this morning, surrounded by amazing souls who are choosing joy. So let's polish our inner diamonds here for a minute. Everybody up? We're going to sing, and you know the song. And we're not going to sing standing still too much. So let's start out with, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine." Okay, now pretend you're 5. And let's do the second verse dancing, because we just did singing. So now we're going to add dancing. "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Move, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Over there's people. "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Go over there and hit somebody. "This little light of mine," you know what to do. "I'm going to let it shine." You know what to do. "This little light of mine," go love somebody. "I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine." We're not done. Oh, "This little light of mine." I got people. "I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Yeah, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, 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 let it shine. Give yourselves a round of applause. So see, we did storytelling, we did singing, we did some dancing. Apparently we need something a little bit more spirited for that. And we're going to do silence here in a moment. And before we go into experiencing the joy of silence, I want to just take a few cleansing breaths. Okay, so let's just go. Make noise when you exhale. Oh, yeah. One more time, and let me really hear you this time. Oh. Can you feel the shift in your body, huh? I want you to settle into your breathing. And as you sit in the stillness and love of everyone in this space, we're going to sit in silence for a moment. I want you to know that I'm going to move from the silence to our meditation for today. So don't be surprised when I come back on. But right now, I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable. Sit in silence. Feel your body. Feel the joy in the room. And we're just going to be still. Sense your heart opening to the miracle that is your life. Recognize all the wonderful ways in which your life celebrates joy, and all the amazing ways in which you connect to the world. Feel your heart open to the miracle that is your breath. Conjure up a heartfelt gratitude as you delve into present moment awareness. Breathe. Recognize how precious and how extraordinary your breath and your life are. Feel your body softening and opening into this awareness of joy. Feel all tension release from your forehead, your shoulders, your belly, your thighs, and then intentionally, ever so slightly, turn up the corners of your mouth. Notice your body reacts to this subtle smile. Turn that sensation inward. And now turn toward that sensation. Feel the joy filling your heart as your smile widens. Let your eyes, even though they're closed, join in with the smile. Feel the tension leave your forehead and scalp. Breathe. Hold the thought of a rose gold ball of light in your hands. Bring that rose gold ball of light to your heart. Breathe the rose gold light into your entire being, your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body, filling up with this beautiful light. Now let that beautiful light permeate every layer of your being, filling you with joy. And let that joy flow from you to the people next to you. Let that joy flow from you to everyone in this space. Let that joy flow from you to everyone in our city. Let that joy flow from you to everyone in our state. Let that joy flow from you to everyone in our country. Let that joy flow from you to everyone in our world. Let that joy flow from you to everyone in our universe, the known and the unknown and beyond. Feel the expansion of love and joy that you are giving freely. Breathe in that place of oneness. Rest in the joy that's filling your heart. Breathe in the joy that's filling your being. Slowly, very slowly, bring your awareness back to the planet Earth. Slowly, very slowly, come back to our world and to our country. Slowly, very slowly, bring yourself back to our city and to the space we're sitting in together, and into your body if you'd left it for a bit. Come back in. Our hearts are full. Gratitude bubbles from the depths of our being. Love surrounds us, and we celebrate joy. Breathe that joy, and when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and acknowledge the person next to you with a smile or a hug, whatever you're comfortable with. So you can support Unity on the Avenue in several different ways. Online at unityontheavenue.org. There is a square at the back of the sanctuary. You can mail your check to the address here on the screen, which is Unity's address. And you can shop at King Soopers using the community rewards. Let's say this together, our offertory blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
Now it's time to bless our children. Would you guys like to come up here and join us? Come along here. We have a lot of joy in our children today. Oh, look at those beautiful faces on the screen. So let's rub our hands together and surround them and uplift these beautiful little spirits with "You are loved, you are special and important. We see you and bless the divine being that you are." Amen. Please join me now for our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us, and I am that light. The love of God enfolds us, and I am that love. The power of God protects us, and I am that power. The presence of God watches over us. I am that presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen.